enemy show. I let my enemies know. I take my enemy's soul and burn my enemy's soul.
As you go through life and you collect things, comics, toys, cards, it could be a backpack. Certain things are going to be more important to you than others. This Batman might mean something one day, this Evelyn might mean something another day. And these things will kind of crash into your memory and stay there forever. I'm in between Green Shirt Guy and Phil, and today we're going to talk about some of our favorite things we've collected on Pop Culture Crash.
Black is like the brightest day. Where are the heroes? Soon as they get here, everything will be alright. I need a hero.
Games! Games! You know, I got a story. I'm an old dude now. I don't feel old, but I'm getting old. When I was going to middle school, which is like a big deal, you're out of 6th grade. You're supposedly you got to get more serious, right? And I wasn't really ready to get more serious. It's the summer. We're at the mall, and there's a place called KB Toys. My friend is buying like hats and clothes for school. He thinks he's gonna meet all these girls in 7th grade. I didn't give a crap about that. I still cared about toys. I go into KB, and what's there? The new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle enemies, and I had to have one of them. So I buy my toy like any other day, and I'm walking through the mall, and some of the like bigger kids approach me, and they're like, "Angelo, what's in your hand? A KB bag? You're not a kid. You can't buy kid stuff." And I'm like in slow motion. It's like I'm on an island of like, I'm not really getting bullied, but it felt kind of weird. I didn't like the way things felt. But then one of the bigger kids came over. This guy is like one of them kids that's like an adult, but he's in like 5th grade. He comes up and he's, "What's the problem over here?" They're like, "Oh, we're just messing with Angelo. He's buying this toy." And the toy was this ugly guy. Now, when you got a bunch of like bullies looking at this guy, they just didn't get it. But Edwin, the bigger guy, he was like, "Listen, it's what he's into. Leave him alone. Who cares?" And everybody kind of walked away. And Edwin's statement of, "That's what he's into, who cares?" it stuck with me through adulthood. Like, you love what you love. You're into what you're into. And it doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter how stupid it looks. As long as it's not hurting anyone, it's cool. And this little wingnut character has been with me since I was 12 years old. And he's just a reminder of, like, I could be who I want to be. Edwin thought it was cool. The big jock. And I thought I was cool. That's that. That's my story.
Did you see the clapping sign?
And that's a real story. That really happened to me. So, like, if you're confident what you're into,
it was funny.
don't worry about anything
and I'm like, me? I never told
in life. Sneakers, a goofy hat. I remember I had a hat that had like skulls on it. I thought I was the coolest kid ever, and I probably wasn't. But it's your confidence in what you're into is what's gonna carry you through things.
Thank you. All right, so you know, when I was like a kid, you know, this goes back to like, you know, the 80s. Like, we kind of probably all grew up in like around the 80s and stuff, and through the 80s. You know, my dad was like into comics and stuff, and like every once in a while he'd like read one of them to us as kids. And like the first comic that I remember him reading to me was like the Frank Miller, The Dark Knight Returns, and like it's actually like Batman in the mid to later 80s is making this dramatic transformation, where he's living up to, he's earning the name now of the Dark Knight. Like, Batman comics have become like, are starting to get dark, and it kind of started with this one, Dark Knight Returns, and it's a great comic. You probably also read it with the Council of Comics, Frank Miller comic. So that's just like, you know, part of the thing. And he also read to me like The Killing Joke as a kid, also like super dark Batman comic, Death in the Family. And it all accumulated to this comic that I absolutely love, Arkham Asylum. And I think this came out in 1989, and it's Grant Morrison. The artist is Dave McKean. He's known for doing the covers for Sandman. And if there's any Stephen King fans out there, he also did the artwork for Dave McKean. He did the artwork for Wizard and Glass, the Dark Tower book. So this is an amazing comic, and this was the first one that I read like by myself. Like I was now old enough to like just read this, and this was like super dope. It's also like the first comic like I probably read to myself that was suggested for mature readers. So it's like one of those things like you're now watching the R-rated movie at like 11. So it was definitely thing, and like this era though of Batman, it kind of just definitely blended into like what we know as like the '89 Batman, like Michael Keaton, even more Batman Returns.
That one's dark.
That one is dark, right?
movie.
That is even darker. This has a penguin with a rocket strapped to its back.
Yeah.
I mean, and also I mean, like by the time we got to like the cartoon, it lightened up on Batman a little bit, but Batman in the late '80s was some really, really dark stuff. So that's what I had to show and talk about. Thank you.
So this is what the game is based on?
It's a little bit what the game is based off of. Yeah, yep. This is a little bit what the game is based off of.
Nice.
Asylum, right?
Yeah.
Yep, Arkham Asylum. It's a great read, great comic, like great artwork. You just can't go. Like that Joker right there is just spot on, like key. Like that's the money shot right there in the book.
That's right.
Mine, I'm not wearing green. Well, I am wearing green, but I'm wearing black now, so I don't look like a floating head. But anyway, I couldn't find my old Star Wars figurines, but those are the ones that I still remember collecting when I was as young as like 6 or 7 years old. And Star Wars to this day is still a big part of my life. It's one of my favorite universes. So I brought these in. I started collecting these when Disney Infinity came out. I was super excited. The sculpt on them was great. But Star Wars for me has always been the property that I love to talk about. I talked about with all kinds of people. Josh, so I think that's how we kind of became friends. It was like, oh, another Star Wars guy. And then it's kind of interesting how pop culture can ingratiate you with people that you would never think you would ever talk to. It's like, oh, you like that too? And then you get in this crazy conversation. So Star Wars for me has always been the thing. I wish I had more of my figurines with me because I still remember going to the store and collecting them. The 6-inch ones. I had a ton of them. And going to friends' houses who had a lot of the vehicles because we weren't rich when I was growing up. So I had the TIE Fighter. I'm sorry, yeah, I had the X-Wing, but I didn't have the AT-AT. I didn't have the Millennium Falcon. I didn't have the Death Star. I didn't have all that stuff. So I'd go over there and bring my guys, and then
You ever turn the styrofoam from the inside the box into like the bases?
Oh yeah, we did. We definitely actually, yeah, because you could turn it into Hawk. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's my story. I wish I had brought more visuals, but yeah, these are mine. Star Wars.
There used to be that C-3PO head that you put the figures in.
I had the Darth Vader one.
Okay, the Vader one, yeah.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, that's mine.
All right. Does anybody have any questions from the studio audience? Question?
Is this a question? Dad, when are you gonna pay me?
No.
Did you ever collect any other figurines other than Star Wars as a kid?
Me? Oh yeah, G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe was the other one. I had a ton of G.I. Joe. I never had Snake Eyes though. Could never get them. Because if you remember, it was always like one per box at the stores.
Yeah.
And I was never there when, so
Sure.
I had just about everybody else, but never.
You had to trade though. The key to getting Snake Eyes was trading.
That's probably true. Yeah, nobody wanted to give them up.
No, not a ninja. No.
I had Storm Shadow though.
Which character, I guess this is for all of you, which character had like the biggest impact on your life and in which way?
Good question.
That's a great question.
So for me, I think it just, we all know we're all into this stuff. Every few years, something becomes popular, and then something will replace that. So it's odd. It didn't start as Luke for Luke. It was Yoda for me. I was obsessed with Yoda, and he was so wise, and he was like this little weird dude. I was like, you gotta listen to this guy. So it started with Yoda, and then it went on to He-Man because I swore I was gonna be like, get these muscles that I couldn't have. You know, genetics will only treat you so fairly. But I wanted to be He-Man. I think I still do want to be He-Man. Yeah.
By the power of grace. Maybe you will be.
Yeah. What about you?
I always liked Luke. I think it was more of a Han guy though.
Yeah.
And then once Boba Fett came around,
Yeah.
Boba Fett was like he was the coolest guy ever.
He was.
So I would say probably Boba Fett.
Phil?
For Star Wars, I was definitely a Luke person.
Yeah.
Like for Star Wars growing up, but as a kid, it was definitely He-Man in like the very early
Sure.
'80s. Like He-Man just was like
But-
it with us.
Plus, He-Man at the end of the show, he gave that great advice.
Oh yeah, this like even the intro of the show, like how it's like the way it just comes on, it just hits you like He-Man literally punches the screen.
Joe had the the knowing half the battle.
I got another one too that is going to seem out there, and unfortunately he just passed away. But I watched Pee-wee's Playhouse, and when I saw this goofy guy, an adult that could act like a goof, I was like, well, I guess I can too, and I acted like a goof until this day.
Sad.
So it's like Pee-wee let you know that you could be an adult, but you don't have to be mature. It's not always about talking about bills and work. You could talk about goofy stuff. And Pee Wee Herman definitely, as I got older, surpassed Yoda, I guess.
As I got older, when like He-Man wasn't on in the late '80s, it went to Batman in the late '80s. Like Batman, like I said, it was Batman's year that year. As a kid, it was a fun time to.
I still remember when that movie came out, and I don't remember if you guys had this, but when I was in high school, they did these like multimedia presentations in the auditorium. It was like an assembly, and it was like 3 or 4 huge screens. And it was about, don't do drugs or whatever, but they would use, popular music and movie clips. And I can still remember the one where it was the shot of the Batwing going up and hitting the moon.
Oh, it's the best.
And they used it in this, and I was like, oh, that's the coolest thing ever. Because the movie hadn't come out yet.
Right.
So I don't know how they got the shot, but yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say Batman for me too.
As I got older, it became Batman, and I still read Batman today. It's a pickup every week.
Mm-hmm. And I get mad when they don't. I think they don't get Batman right. So in that Batman Superman movie, I got really annoyed because I'm like, that's not my Batman.
Yeah,
Batman doesn't kill people.
Yeah, no.
He will use violence as a last resort.
Yeah.
Well, not as a last resort, but he's not trying to maim people.
Sure.
Whereas that Batman had really no regard for human life, in my mind. So that while it was an all-right movie, I was annoyed that I felt they got Batman wrong. So that's me.
That was a good question.
Good question.
That was a great
I
question.
can keep answering that. Now that I'm thinking about it. So, I got one more. This is a bad one, kind of. Not too bad. It's PG. So, the Ninja Turtles were the thing right after Batman, 1990, 91. Yeah. And everybody wanted to be a ninja. And there was a store in Newburgh that sold ninja suits. Buddy? Everything right on that? I had the whole ninja suit from head to toe. The shoes, the grappling hook, the nunchucks. I swore I was going to fight evil. I would sneak out of my house at like midnight. And it just became me kind of like, looking in people's windows.
Very nice.
A ninja like peeping Tom. I never fought crime, but it did like the Ninja Turtles at least influenced me to try to be a good guy. Didn't work out that way, but
Make you want to eat more pizza too?
I did eat a lot of pizza. I mean, I'm probably gonna eat pizza tonight.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
The Ninja Turtles sold so many pizzas.
Oh yeah, Elio's.
Yes. Pizza Hut, Ninja Turtles sold pizzas.
Yeah, but these goofy cartoon characters, like it can put value in you. Though.
Oh yeah.
From He-Man to Yoda to Ninja Turtles, Batman.
Batman.
Well, cartoons back then were appointment viewing. I feel like there are some good ones now, but the artwork was so much better, and the storylines were so more developed than they are now.
They treated the kids like we were young adults.
Oh, absolutely. It was
Don't forget Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters or the real Ghostbusters?
No, either I guess. But when
everybody wanted the packs. Everybody.
Oh yeah.
Oh
I
yeah.
was always so mad because I
Yeah.
could never get the jumpsuit. I wanted the jumpsuit so bad.
I was a Ghostbuster one Halloween. Like like the parents would like make the pack like boxes and stuff, like some markers.
I remember being obsessed with the movie, but the cartoon I didn't watch until like adulthood for some strange reason. I don't know why.
Oh, I watched it with my parents.
Yeah.
Because it was on later. I want to say it was on. Because remember, cartoons would start at like 7:30 and run to noon, and I want to say it came on at like 11 o'clock. So they were up by then. We'd all be eating breakfast and watching it on this little black and white TV. And my parents got into it with me, which is odd because if you ever met my father, this is not his thing, but he got into it with us. It was kind of wild.
That's awesome.
And it was the real Ghostbusters. Do you remember the other Ghostbusters?
With the gorilla.
With the gorilla.
That
yeah,
came
yeah.
out first though. That was a 50,
Right.
That was a 50s like TV show.
I watched that one too because I was on in the afternoons.
Yeah, they lost the rights.
Yeah.
That's why they had to put the real Ghostbusters on there. Yeah.
Games! Games! Black is like the brightest day.